We've agreed you're no longer part of the family." The words hit before the sound finished leaving her throat. Across the table, someone's fork paused mid-air. Light from the chandelier trembled on the silverware. The dining room was too bright for the silence it held. My mother's hand stayed on her wine glass. Steady. Rehearsed. Kayla sat beside her. A soft smile. The kind people wear when they've already chosen a side. The server froze halfway to the table, unsure if he should still pour the water. I could hear the hum of the air vent above us, the small crackle of the candle wick burning unevenly. Everything ordinary kept working, as if this moment wasn't collapsing the room. Someone coughed. Someone else shifted in their chair. The sound of my own breath felt like an intrusion. I didn't move. The light on my phone screen reflected off the empty plate in front of me. My name still sat on the place card, printed in gold. "I am touched." Across from me, my mother finally exhaled and reached for the breadbasket. Calm, decisive. No one spoke. The quiet had a pulse of its own. The phone was still face up beside my plate, a faint glow under the chandelier. The message sat there, final, unblinking. I turned it once, letting the screen catch the light like glass. That small rectangle held years of quiet transactions, names, receipts, transfers, every unspoken favor that kept their world spinning. My fingers brushed the edge of the phone, then stopped. The air felt heavier, the way it does before a storm breaks. Kayla's laughter from earlier still floated somewhere in the room, thin now, like an echo left behind. My mother reached for her napkin, folded it with care, eyes never meeting mine. The noise of plates returning to motion was too loud, too practiced. I set my hand flat on the table, steady. The silver ring I never took off pressed cold against my skin. A single drop of water from the sweating glass slid down, tracing a small line onto the white cloth. That was the only thing moving. When I finally lifted the phone, it wasn't to answer. It was to place it face down, screen to the linen, quiet and deliberate. The vibration buzzed once beneath my palm, then stopped. I sat back, spine straight, breath slow, and let the silence do the talking. They thought exile would leave me speechless. I only thought this time, I won't remind them what they've lost. Kayla once borrowed my card, said it was quicker than transferring. She handed it back 2 days later with a smile and a receipt folded in half. The ink had bled a little where coffee dripped. I wiped it once with my thumb and said nothing. The next month, I saw my mother swipe the same card at the pharmacy. She didn't look up. The machine beeped twice before accepting the payment. I watched the green light reflect off her wedding band. No one mentioned it. I told myself it was convenience, not habit. At Sunday lunch, she said, "Kayla's better with money. Let her manage the bills." The table was long, the light uneven. My uncle scrolled his phone, pretending not to hear. His glasses caught a glare, making his eyes unreadable. He was the kind of man who always looked like he agreed with whoever spoke last. Kayla nodded, her gold bracelet catching the light every time she moved her fork. In front of them, my mother placed an envelope. It had my handwriting from years ago: rent payments, emergency checks, signatures I recognized. She slid it across the table to Kayla. No words, just the shuffle of paper over linen. I saw the top corner. My initials. Neat, careful. The envelope disappeared into Kayla's purse. The waiter arrived to clear the plates. He hesitated when he saw the envelope gone. Unsure what had shifted, my mother smiled at him. Practiced warmth. I took a sip of water that had gone flat, the sound of the glass against my teeth louder than I expected. No one looked at me. The room smelled faintly of lemon polish and old decisions. I watched the reflection of the chandelier tremble in the empty plate, a small quiver that faded as quickly as it appeared. Weeks later, an email arrived. Subject line: account access updated. No greeting, no explanation, just a notification that my login had been changed. The family mortgage account, the one in my name. I refreshed the page 3 times before the truth settled. They hadn't asked. They'd replaced my contact details with Kayla's. The date stamp on the update was the same day I'd wired money for their property tax. I opened the document they'd uploaded, a new authorization form. My signature looked perfect, almost too perfect. I leaned closer, tracing the curve of the S. The pen stroke hesitated in a place mine never would. In the next meeting, they spoke as if I wasn't there. Decisions flew over my head: insurance, repairs, transfers. My name wasn't on the CC line of any email that followed. The same uncle nodded along, eyes on his screen again, pretending not to notice. The seat beside my mother was filled by Kayla now, bright and loud. I kept attending, silent. Every chair creaked except mine. I signed things before reading, just to keep the peace. When I asked for a copy of the new contract, my mother said, "It's handled, handled." The word hung between us like a locked door. That night, I found a small memo in my downloads folder. Line 47, transfer pending, secondary signer added. I took a screenshot, then saved it in a folder named Later. By then, my signature had become everyone's currency. I was the ghost author of their comfort. The sound of my own keyboard was the only thing that still obeyed me. When I closed the laptop, the reflection of the screen lingered in the window. It looked like a pulse waiting to stop. I whispered to the glass, "Not for them, but for me. I'm done standing still." The apartment was dark except for the line of blue light from the laptop. The clock on the wall ticked once every second. Patient. Curtains moved slightly with the draft from the vent. I sat still, the kind of still that listens. The phone from dinner lay on the table, face down. Its black surface mirrored the ceiling light, a faint pulse in the quiet. My hand hovered over it, then moved instead to the stack of envelopes beside it. Each one labeled, each one once used for them. I slid the top drawer open, folders in gray, edges straight. The sound of paper shifting was sharp and neat. A single USB drive clicked into place in the side port. The screen lit with folders I already knew by name. I didn't search. I arranged, each file renamed by date, amount, and note. 3/14, transfer tax. 5/22, Kayla loan. 9/8, mortgage help. Each sound of the keyboard landed with precision, no wasted stroke. Receipts scanned, aligned under the lens of the phone, one by one. The images folded into digital order. The rustle of paper, the soft hum of the printer. It was less about keeping proof and more about restoring gravity. Emails printed, attachments sorted by month, lines highlighted where the promises started to fade. I labeled each folder with a short code: FAM1, FAM2, FAM3. My handwriting stayed steady, measured, like someone clocking a pulse. When the machine beeped to signal the last print, I turned it off. The silence after the hum felt structured, not empty. I placed the USB drive on the table beside the phone. Two small witnesses in the same pool of light. The next morning, light cut across the desk in a clean stripe. I opened my laptop, the hum softer than before. A message waited in drafts, already addressed to Julia. She was my quiet constant, the kind who didn't fill silence, just anchored it. I typed one line: "Need you to review a few files. I'll send them tonight." No greeting, no sign-off, just instruction. The cursor blinked twice before I hit send. By noon, her reply arrived. No questions, only, "Which one first?" I smiled once, barely, then attached the folder marked FAM1. The upload bar crept forward, slow and sure, like breath through glass. Step 1, confirmation. I opened the family chat, the one they used for bills and reminders. Typed, "Please confirm by email which payments I'm responsible for going forward." The screen stayed empty for a moment. Then a notification blinked. "Mom, all handled. We'll let you know if anything changes." That was the mark I needed. Timestamp saved. Screenshot taken. Step 2, legitimacy. At the printer, I fed each page through, one at a time. Stamp, scan, rename. The air smelled faintly of toner and cold metal. I filed the signed copies in a new folder titled Pending Recovery. Julia would know what to do with that. Step 3, confrontation. A calendar invite. Short and clean. Family discussion Sunday, 6 p.m. Location, home dining room. I added Julia as observer. No further detail. Hit send. Watched the tiny airplane icon vanish. Evening settled around the apartment. The phone, the USB, and the printed stack formed a triangle of quiet certainty. I turned off every light except the one over the desk. The hum of the city below sounded far away, almost respectful. I wrote one line at the bottom of my notes before closing the file. I don't need them to believe. I just need everything recorded. Sunday evening. The dining room light was too bright for comfort. The table gleamed under it, polished wood, clean plates. The air thick with civility. The ceiling fan hummed slow, keeping time. Julia sat at the far end, quiet, pen in hand. She wasn't family, and that made her the only neutral thing in the room. My mother started talking before I even sat. She called it a conversation, but her tone already carried the verdict. Her voice moved steady, rehearsed, wrapping the words sacrifice and duty around the edges like a bow. She spoke of all she'd done, how she had held this family together, how gratitude was owed, not given. Kayla nodded when cued, her nails tapping the rim of her glass in soft rhythm. Dad kept looking down, tracing the line of his napkin with a fork. Every few seconds, he exhaled through his nose, heavy but contained. I sat still, back straight, hands flat on the table. The sound of the clock in the hallway filled the pauses between her sentences. She shifted tone midway, said, "You've misunderstood our intentions. Sherry, you've been distant, careless, too focused on money." Her smile held steady while the words cut. Julia looked at her notes, not up. No one else spoke. The air grew sharp, like it had edges now. The hum of the refrigerator carried through from the kitchen, constant and indifferent. Kayla poured herself more water. The glass clinked loud in the stillness. I met my mother's gaze once. She expected an interruption. None came. I waited until her words tangled into themselves, until repetition made them thin. Then the silence stretched across the table, tight as wire. I reached down. I unzipped my bag and placed a folder on the table. The paper edges aligned perfectly with the grain of the wood. No sound beyond the faint brush of cardboard sliding. Julia looked first. Her pen stopped tapping. She gave a small nod, barely movement, but enough. The light from above hit the folder's surface square on. The reflection climbed up my mother's arm, pausing at her wrist. No one asked what it was. They already knew it wasn't for discussion. The clock ticked once, twice, then stopped mattering. I opened the folder. The first page was a screenshot, timestamp clear, message thread visible. My mother's reply at the top, all handled. We'll let you know if anything changes. Underneath, the confirmation email from the bank. Julia adjusted her glasses, leaned slightly forward. I turned to the next page. Transaction list. Each row clean, marked by date and account. Kayla's name appeared beside half of them. The silence made the paper sound louder than it was. My mother's hand twitched once near her glass. Kayla looked down, searching for the smile she'd lost. Julia flipped through slowly, pausing at a notarized document. Her voice stayed even. This confirmed secondary signer was added without consent. She placed it back like evidence in a courtroom. I reached for the next layer, bank statements. Then property title, my name on every line that mattered. The ownership field had never changed. I watched their eyes follow the paper across the table, tracing proof they had rewritten in their minds but not in law. The air broke before anyone spoke. Kayla whispered something to my mother, half breath, half prayer. My father shifted his chair back, the legs scraping against the tile. No one looked at Julia. She was already sealing the folder. I slid one more envelope across the table. The new authorization letter. Short. Final. It revoked every shared access. Julia's pen clicked once as she signed as witness. I said one sentence. Level and exact. From this point on, nothing of mine belongs to this family. No one answered. The fan kept turning overhead. Outside, a car passed, headlights sweeping briefly across the wall before disappearing. Julia gathered the papers, stacked them, and stood. She left the folder open for them to see the closing line. Transfer complete. Funds returned. Title reinstated. I placed my hands on the table, felt the wood warm under my palms. Then I pushed the chair back and stood. Everything is where it should be. I said, steady. And that was the end of it. Morning settled over the apartment like a slow breath. Light slid across the floor, touching the edge of the table first. The air smelled faintly of paper and metal, the aftertaste of last night's order. A kettle began to hum on the stove, low and steady. I moved through the room without checking my phone. The screens stayed dark, their silence unbroken. The folder from the dinner sat where I'd left it, corners squared. Weight precise. Beside it, an empty glass. A faint ring of water dried to a pale circle. The clock ticked softer now, the kind of rhythm that didn't demand attention. I folded a chair and leaned it against the wall. The space it left on the floor looked larger than it was. For the first time in months, there was no sound waiting to interrupt. I made coffee. Slow. Steam rose in small spirals before fading into the light. The spoon clinked once against the cup. I didn't rush. The air held still long enough to be noticed. I opened the window a little wider. The curtain lifted, caught the morning, then settled back. The city below carried on, cars moving like quiet machinery. Somewhere far off, a siren started, then disappeared. I took the first sip while standing by the window. No alarms, no buzzing phone, no new message, only heat, glass, and the sound of the wind moving through clean air. In the group chat, no one mentioned the dinner, but when I sent a simple update, new mailing address, new number, the replies came faster than before. Short acknowledgments, careful punctuation. Silence had adjusted its weight. By afternoon, I rearranged the shelves. The framed photo went to a drawer, face down. The plant by the window tilted toward the light again. I watered it, slow, until the soil darkened evenly. The sound of the water hitting earth filled the room in small rhythms. The air carried the smell of coffee and dust. I opened the balcony door, let the wind clear what was left. Below, traffic hummed, distant and steady. Inside, nothing pressed back. I sat at the table, wrote a list of things that didn't need repeating, then folded it once and slid it into the folder marked Archive. The drawer closed with a clean click. The room exhaled with me. Maybe peace isn't about noise leaving. Maybe it's about what finally stays quiet. I choose silence, and silence keeps me standing.